Andy, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So it has been a tough few years for teachers. I mean, between COVID, COVID is the main headline for teachers over the past couple of years. But then we saw in the spring this awful shooting at the Uvalde School District in Texas. And that has just brought up a lot of feelings of unease in schools. From the teacher perspective, do you see schools as a safe space right now?
Well, I think when I speak with teachers from around the state, they tell me about their anxiety, their fear, and for some, it might be what happened in Uvalde. It might be what's happening right now in their school building. So there's all different types of issues that are coming to the surface right now around the state.
You know, in terms of a school shooting, do you think schools in New York are prepared enough for that possibility? We have prepared for this before, and obviously this is not a new thing.
Right. I think that schools are preparing. I think this is a process. I think we have to face reality that things can happen anywhere at any time. So the more we put into this to keep schools a safe haven for children, for parents, and for educators, the better off we'll be.
You know, we're also having this problem in schools right now where, according to you and others, there have been an uptick in violent incidents in school districts. We're looking at, obviously, last school year because you didn't have school over the summer. First, do we know why that is? Is it, I could imagine being a kid at this time, going through so much and, acting out. But do we know why there's more violence in schools right now?
Well, I think coming through COVID, they've had this weird, odd experience of life in general, and then an education experience of being remote, having an educator, a teacher remote, and then coming back and having to wear a mask and dealing with all of the issues of not having the normalcy that they had before. So some children deal with it better than others, but we know that there are unmet needs that students are dealing with. So we want to be able to have the counseling, the staffing in place to actually meet those needs.
How do we do that? Does that just mean more funding? Does it mean setting up that infrastructure? What is it going to take to get to these kids that are experiencing these, for lack of a better term, crises in their lives?
Right, and there's more now than there used to be.
Yeah.
And we hear that over and over from educators around the state. So staffing, having the appropriate levels of staffing when it comes to educators, teachers in the classroom, also psychologists, social workers, mental health providers that would be able to intercede and get into the middle of the problem. What is really going on here? Why are we acting out in such a way? Maybe we can intervene before issues come to the surface. So funding, always. There's always a need for funding and more funding. We had a very good budget last year, but obviously we want to see more money going into things like restorative justice initiatives and things to that nature, where we can intervene, we can have the community involved and work together to bring answers to all of these problems.
One problem that you're facing right now that's related to staffing is this teacher shortage. I mean, it's a national problem, but you're dealing with it here in New York. What do we do about it? I mean, that's one of those problems where I don't know if it's funding. I don't know if it's that there's not enough people in the pipeline to become teachers. What do you see as the solution?
You have definitely hit on the two problems.
Well, that's good. We're going in the right direction.
There's not enough folks going into education. In the SUNY system, it's down by 50%.
Wow.
So where we had so many more people going into the profession years ago, we have seen a steady decline over the years, even pre-COVID. So we have something at NYSUT, the Take a Look at Teaching initiative, to grow your own. Have your students think about teaching. It is a great profession. We do change lives. We make the world a better place. So encouraging folks to get into it. There's been a certain amount of disrespect for educators over the years.
Yes.
And it's come from politicians, it's come from some policymakers. So now we have to make up for that, showing them the respect for the profession and what they do, what they bring every day.
It seems like politics is getting into the classroom more and more. I mean, not every classroom, but it feels like the consensus in the country is that there's politics in the classroom where there doesn't need to be. I don't think that's the case in a lot of classrooms, but how do you see this from the teacher perspective? How do we bring classrooms back to being just the safe space for students to be learning and not a place for people to bring opinions in, I guess?
Right. And what we're trying to do is make sure that it is a safe place for every student. That is our goal. And when we say safe, we mean health-wise, right? Safety, and we also mean emotionally. In every single way that a student would feel that they're not being given someone's opinions on every single aspect of life, but that they can enjoy being with their friends and getting to know the world as a bigger place, getting to know how people act and how people live in different places around the world and around this country, and feel that they can explore and say, this is what this is all about. Oh, okay. So we can be friends. We can be in a safe place. We can share ideas. So I think that is where we are right now.
At the same time, you have this unique situation caused by the pandemic of students who have some learning gaps because maybe remote learning wasn't the most effective for them personally, or they just fell behind for other reasons. How much of a challenge do you see that for teachers moving forward? I have to assume it would be a big task for somebody who, let's say, for example, somebody's teaching 7th grade, but the student is coming from 6th grade and maybe didn't get the learning that they needed to advance on. How are teachers addressing that, and how is that going to affect them?
Right. Well, the learning gap is a real thing, right? And different students have been affected differently by the pandemic and remote learning. Some were able to go right through. You know, they had everything they needed, the computer, the internet connection. Some didn't have that at all. And our members delivered manila folders by bus to students' houses during the height of the pandemic. And then they would be collected and brought back. So everyone had a very different experience. Some had no internet connection at all. Some educators had no internet connection. They had to go to the school and use the Wi-Fi.
Right.
So everybody's had a different experience with this. Can we make up for lost time? Yes. Does it take resources? Most definitely. And we believe that with those resources, we can make up for any gap that there is. But we also have to look forward and say, what was missing? Not that we ever want to go through this again, but what could we do that would make it better and more equal around the state for students, whether they are urban, suburban, or rural, that they would have the same access to the internet, be able to interact with their educators in such a way that there would be less of a gap.
And I think that's something that we will be looking at for years to come, just studying how the pandemic affected, schools, every aspect of society. But we are out of time. Andy Pilato from NYSUT, thank you so much.
Thank you.